In Cornwall's culture and independence, quite a lot of news breaking over the last 24 hours. We've learned the government's going to give Cornwall some sort of devolution deal. It doesn't involve us having an elected mayor, which got a lot of people upset when the idea was mooted, or joining up with any part of Devon, which also got some people upset. But what will it mean in practice? We'll be hearing from Council Leader Lee Frost later on. And we've also learned that the Cornish language is to get the highest level of protection. It had been lagging behind other Celtic languages in terms of status. Mebyon and Kernow are delighted, and I'm delighted to say that Councillor Loveday Jenkin, who represents MK, is with us. Hi, Loveday. Mitenda.
Mitenda. As you have a splan.
Well, you said splan there, so I got excellent. What was the rest of that phrase?
Isn't it excellent? Isn't it great that the government are finally realising that Cornish language should have parity with Welsh, Manx, Irish Gaelic and Scots?
I'm going to lay it on the line as I understand it, and you know more about the technicalities. So effectively, we had like 2 out of 3 stars. Now we've got the 3 stars, the full protection.
It's a bit like that, but actually Part 3 is a big deal. The issue with Part 3 is there are a number of clauses within it. We don't actually, or I don't actually know which clauses the government are signing up to, but they have to sign up to at least 35 of those clauses. And that includes promoting Cornish, making Cornish available for young people who want to use it in schools, want to learn it in schools, making it available at all levels of education.
Okay, so in Cornwall then, if you have a sort of secondary school, primary school, and you want your child to learn some Cornish, it should be made available then?
It should be made available, subject to capacity, obviously, and there's lots of little let-out bits, but you have the right to ask for Cornish to be available for your children in school, or even to use Cornish for university. That's just one of the clauses. That's the education clause.
Although I imagine in practical terms, if you're studying, I don't know, astrophysics and you want it done in Cornish, it ain't going to happen, is it?
There's a few astrophysicists who speak Cornish.
Yeah, well, we'll see.
And some people in NASA. Yeah. But it's not. It's a gradual process. It's a start of a journey, but it is giving Cornwall the same start on the journey as Manx or Welsh or Scots Gaelic.
What other practical things does this mean as of the adoption of this third tier status?
Well, previously in Part 2, public bodies had to recognise that Cornish existed. They didn't have to do very much. Now they have to there is some responsibility for them to promote and to encourage the use of the language, so signage, those sorts of things. Cornwall Council has already done quite a lot, so there's a lot more signage around than there used to be, but other public bodies should also be doing that when they're replacing signs, those sorts of things. It's all, obviously, it all depends on whether there's a demand or not as well. So it depends on whether people ask for things. But if you ask for things, there shouldn't be an automatic, oh, no, you can't have it. There should be let's see how we can do it.
So it seems that it opens up the doors to a lot of things, but it doesn't necessarily unlock them uncontested.
Well, the key critical thing, obviously, with all these things is capacity and funding.
Yeah, I mean, you as a Cornwall councillor know well how difficult the finances are, and we know how difficult the government's finances are following the budget this week. So is it sort of really, it's theoretical that you're going to ask for these things, that they're ever going to happen because nobody's got any money?
Well, for example, if the money is there, some of that money should be used for Cornish. So, for instance, under the media clause, there is a commitment that to maintain and ensure that some programmes are available in Cornish, both at radio and television level.
Okay, so we could get Cornish. I mean, we do obviously do Cornish language content every week, and there are plans for more. But actually, TV, I don't think there's anything in Cornish on TV, is there?
Only online stuff. There's nothing actually on the television. And of course, we have the difficulty with the television. There's no distinct Cornish television itself, let alone Cornish language.
Yeah, and we don't want people from Devon listening to our language, do we?
Well, why not? I mean, there is also a duty to promote the language outside of the traditional area in which it is. So if the British government are talking about the Celtic languages, they should be including Cornish in that.
For those people who are listening to this and thinking, yeah, but, we've got other fish to fry, why does it matter? To you, why is this so important?
It's a huge step forward. I mean, I've been speaking Cornish for over 50 years. My children speak Cornish. When my children were growing up, they didn't have the opportunity to go to the school and say, actually, we want some of our lessons in Cornish, even though they were first language Cornish speakers. In the future, that may be something that people can do. But for most people, just having a bit of Cornish around is really important. It's part of, the heritage and culture of Cornwall. There's another element within Part 3, which is about ensuring that cultural organisations use the language. So it's recognising and promoting the fact that the language exists, and we already know, the Cornish people exist as a national minority. So it's giving them equal rights to Wales and Scotland in relation to that recognition.
Loveday, we've known each other since the 1980s, when we were all not much younger, and wouldn't notice that we've aged at all. But we first knew where I was doing the technicals and you were doing the Cornish language side of stuff that was broadcast on BBC Radio Cornwall way back in the mists of time. How do you feel things have progressed for the language and Cornish culture since then?
It's been a huge step forward. Sometimes we think, it's not far enough. But actually, when I was growing up in the 60s, there were very few children who actually even knew the Cornish language existed. Now, most schools have the opportunity to do a bit in school. People see it around on street signs. People see it around on signs in public buildings. They know it exists. They know it's there, and they have a right to use it. And that is a huge step forward. It doesn't feel enough for me, but it's certainly a lot more opportunities. I mean, most of my life, when I've been doing Cornish language, I've been doing it in a voluntary capacity. I've had one paid employment where, speaking Cornish was important. But in the future, there should be more paid employment for people who can speak Cornish. Training for teachers for schools, for instance, enabling them to work in Cornish schools and use some language, and making it a normal part of everyday life is really, really important.
I think certain phrases like Mittendar, like splan, have got into more common usage now, which is brilliant. While you're here, I want to use and abuse you. What do you make of this devolution deal thing? Because, as a Cornwall councillor with a keen eye on Cornish independence, because you represent Mebyon and Kernow, the government has said we can have some sort of deal. It won't involve an elected mayor, which a lot of people didn't like. It won't involve joining forces across the border with an authority from Devon. What do you reckon?
Well, again, I haven't seen the detail, but anything is a step forward from being told, well, no, of course you can't have any more powers because you're not going to be a mayoral authority. And fair play to the MPs and Cornwall Council for pushing on this, and all the Cornwall councillors saying, or virtually all the Cornwall councillors saying, we need a bespoke deal for Cornwall. The devil is obviously in the detail about what that bespoke deal will be, but at least the government are now saying, yes, we will have a bespoke deal for Cornwall.
What powers would you like for Cornwall in an ideal world if you could put your Christmas list to Santa?
Well, as a Mebyon Kernow councillor, of course, I'd like a Cornish Parliament and local, and that separating that from local devolution, with a Cornish Parliament with similar powers to Wales or Scotland, and the opportunity to decide where the money goes and what it goes on, and not just be given a block grant from Westminster and told what it can be spent on. Because Cornwall is unique in that it has sea on three sides. It doesn't have the opportunity to work with others in the same way. We have to find our own solutions. We have huge access to service issues, because we have huge rurality. Some of the fairer funding review is not recognising the impact of that rurality. So we need to be looking at bespoke solutions that work for Cornwall.
Loveday. Miraz, thank you for coming in. Really nice to see you. And we shall see. So pretty much the judgment on all of this is we're not there But both of these things are a step in the right direction for you.
Yeah, definitely. And it's up to the people of Cornwall to make it what it should be.